नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। सुत उवाच एवं निशम्य भगवान् देवशर्जन्म कर्म च भूयः प्रपच्छ तं ब्रह्मन् व्यासः सत्यवती सुतः।
Suta said, O Brahmanas, thus hearing all about Sri Narada's birth and activities, Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God and son of Satyavati, inquired as follows.
व्यास उवाच भिक्षुभिर्विप्रवसिते विज्ञानादेष्ट्रिभिस्तव वर्तमानो वस्यध्ये ततः किम् अकरोत् भवन्।
Sri Vyasadeva said, what did you, Narada, do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed you in scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of your present birth?
स्वयंभुवा कया वृत्या पतितं ते परं वयः कथं चेदं मुदस्राक्षिः काले प्राप्ते कलेवरम्।
O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation, and how did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course?
प्राक्कल्पा विषयामेतां स्मृतिं ते मुनिसत्तमा न ह्येषा व्यवधात् काला एषा सर्वा निराकृतिः।
O great sage, time annihilates everything in due course. So how is it that this subject matter, which happened prior to this day of Brahma, is still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time?
नारद उवाच भिक्षुभिर्विप्रवसिते विज्ञानादेशभिर्मम वर्तमानो वयस्यद्ये तदेतत् अकारशम्।
Sri Narada said, the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way.
एकत्माजामि जननी योषिन्मूढा च किङ्करी मया यात्मजनन्यगतौ चक्रस्नेहानुबन्धनम्।
I was the only son of my mother, who was not only a simple woman, but a maid servant as well. Since I was her only offspring, she had no other alternative for protection. She bound me with the tie of affection.
शाश्वतन्त्रा न कल्पाश्चिद् योगक्षेमं ममेच्छति ईशया हि वशे लोको योषदारुमयि यथा।
She wanted to look after my maintenance properly, but because she was not independent, she was not able to do anything for me. The world is under the full control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master.
अहं च तद् ब्रह्मकुले शिवंस्तदुपेक्षया दिग्देशाख्या कालव्युत्पन्नो बालकः पञ्चहायनः।
When I was a mere child of 5 years, I lived in a Brahmana school. I was dependent on my mother's affection and had no experience of different lands.
एकदा निर्गतां गेहात् दुहन्तीं निशिकाम्पति सर्पदशत्पदा स्पृष्टः कृपणां कालचोदितः।
Once upon a time, my poor mother, when going out one night to milk a cow, was bitten on the leg by a serpent, influenced by supreme time.
तदा तद्धहमीशस्य भक्तानां शमभीप्सतः अनुग्रहं मन्यमानः प्रातिष्ठां दिशम् उत्तराम्।
I took this as the special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotees, and so thinking, I started for the north.
स्फीतान् जनपदांस्तत्र पुराग्रामाव्रजाकरान् खेतखर्वट्वाटिश्च वनानि च।
After my departure, I passed through many flourishing metropolises towns, villages, animal farms, mines, agricultural lands, valleys, flower gardens, nursery gardens, and natural forests.
चित्रधातु विचित्राद्रिन् इव भग्न भुजाद्रुमान् जलाश्याञ्चिव जलान् नालिनी सुरसेविताः चित्रस्वानै पत्ररथे बिभ्रमत् ब्रह्मराश्रयः
I passed through hills and mountains full of reservoirs of various minerals like gold, silver, and copper, and through tracts of land with reservoirs of water filled with beautiful lotus flowers, fit for the denizens of heaven, decorated with bewildered bees and singing birds.
नालवेणु नलवेणु सरस्तन्वा कुशकिञ्चक गह्वरम् एक एवातियातोऽहम् अद्रक्षं विपिनं महात् घोरं प्रातिभयाकारं व्यालोलुक शिवाजिराम्
I then passed alone through many forests of rushes, bamboo, reeds, sharp grass, weeds, and caves, which were very difficult to go through alone. I visited deep, dark, and dangerously fearful forests, which were the play yards of snakes, owls, and jackals.
परिश्रान्तेन्द्रियात्माहं त्रिपरितो बुभुक्षितः स्नात्वा पीत्वा हृदय नद्या उपसृष्टो गतश्रमः
Thus traveling, I felt tired, both bodily and mentally, and I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took a bath in a river lake and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion.
तस्मिन् निर्मानुजेरण्ये पिपालोपाष्ट आश्रितः आत्मानम् आत्मस्थं यथा श्रुतम् अचिन्तयम्
After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree in an uninhabited forest, I began to meditate upon the super soul situated within, using my intelligence as I had learned from liberated souls.
ध्यायताश्चरणाम्भोजम् भावनिर्जितचेतसा औत्कण्ठया शुक्लाक्षस्य हृदयसिन्मेषणर्हरि
As soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes, and without delay, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart.
प्रेमातिभरनिर्भिन्ना पुलकाङ्गोतिनिर्वृतः आनन्दासम्प्लवे लीनो न पश्यन् उभयं मुने
O Vyasadeva, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by the feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord.
रूपं भगवतो यत्तन् मनकान्तं शुचापहम् अपश्यन् सहसोतस्थे वैक्लव्यादुर्मना इव
The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable.
दिदृक्षुस्तद् अहं भूयः प्राणिधाया मनोहृदि वीक्षमाणोऽपि नापश्यम् अवितृप्त इवातुरः
I desire to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him anymore, and thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hari Mataji Shasita Prabhu. Very nice recitation, Sanskrit, and nicely reading with so much devotion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so We're starting a new chapter today, chapter 6, and we will discuss the first verse. So, chapter 6 is entitled Conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva. So, I will recite the verse once again. We'll read the translation and purport. We will discuss. And until 8:40, Shyam Prabhu will be singing a nice bhajan for us. And then after the bhajan, we will have a little bit of question answer, if any. So, I will share the verse also. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Natya Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So, verse 1. Suta Vacha Evam Nishamya Bhagavan Devarashe Janma Karma Cha Bhuya Paprachatam Brahman Vyasa Satyavati Sutaha. Suta Vacha Evam Nishamya Bhagavan Devarashe Janma Karma Cha Bhuya Paprachatam Brahman Vyasa Satyavati Sutaha. Word for word synonyms. Suta Uvacha, Suta said, Evam, thus, Nishamya, hearing, Bhagavan, the powerful incarnation of God, Devarashihi, of the great sage amongst the gods, Janma, birth, Karma, work, Cha, and Bhuyah, again, Papracha, asked, come, him, Brahman, O Brahmanas, Vyasaha, Vyasadeva, Satyavati Sutaha, the son of Satyavati. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Suta said, O Brahmanas, thus hearing all about Sri Narada's birth and activities, Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God and son of Satyavati, inquired as follows. Purport. Vyasadeva was further inquisitive to know about the perfection of Naradaji, and therefore he wanted to know about him more and more. In this chapter, Naradaji will describe how he was able to have a brief audience with the Lord while he was absorbed in the transcendental thought of separation from the Lord, and when it was very painful for him. Hare Krishna. And Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanutam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdhutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नम ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनकारणं परमानन्दमाधवं चैतन्येश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here this Saturday evening. It was a beautiful day today. I hope all of you had some wonderful Krishna conscious activities of family gatherings. And thank you very much for sparing your evening here to discuss Krishna Katha. I'll try to share whatever I've heard a little bit from other devotees. And with your blessings, something meaningful will come out. Thank you so much once again. So we are starting the chapter 6. We have concluded 5th chapter yesterday. So after first canto, we have done 5 chapters already and beginning of the 6th chapter. So it's wonderful, glorious that so many of you have been logging on every single day to hear the Bhagavatam Katha. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. That is the essence of Bhagavatam, is when we do everyday study of Bhagavatam, it creates some magical transformation in our lives when we do everything. Every day, leaving aside everything to find our time to hear and read, hear and discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. Many devotees have shared these experiences. That it's just the magic happens when we do it every day. So it's very nice that we're all able to continue this. So the 6th chapter is titled "The Conversation between between Narada and Srila Vyasadeva." So in the previous chapter, that was concluded. Narada Muni had explained a little bit about his previous life and how he had heard the transcendental messages from the Bhakti Vedantas. And then after that, Srila Vyasadeva had received his instruction as to what he should do and what was that he was missing. But a very interesting term comes now, which is something to ponder over and something to learn in our lives. There are many, many important lessons in this chapter. And every single verse, every chapter of Bhagavatam is like that. But now we are starting the personal life story of Sri Narada Muni. So what is interesting now is Vyasadeva, the disciple of Srila Narada Muni, his spiritual master, he asked the personal story of his spiritual master. So the lesson that we have first here is we should take keen interest in the life story of our spiritual master. We have to all be very inquisitive as to how did the spiritual master Srila Prabhupada, his own journey, like devotees have said a number of times, that how if we read Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrit, we come to know what, how Srila Prabhupada, passed his own journey, and how, every single day, that how he was connected to Krishna. He was always Krishna conscious. But, when to be able to understand philosophy or someone's writing, we have to know that person as well. It's very important. Then we appreciate a lot more. Similarly, so Vyasadeva wanted to understand more, in the sense, the 4 questions he asked Narada Muni is saying, 3 questions. So for the what he says, first question that he asked is inquiring is, what did you do after the departure of Bhaktivedantas who instructed you? So in the previous chapter, Narada Muni, mentioned to Vyasadeva that he was instructed when he was a little boy. He used to serve the Bhaktivedantas. His mother was a maid servant, and he would get some remnants from Bhaktivedantas, those great sages who were at the ashram during the Chaturmas period that is ongoing at the moment. And then they eventually departed from that place after the Chaturmas. So Vyasadeva was inquisitive to know, so what happened after that? So he was initiated by the Bhaktivedantas and Narada Muni. So what happens after initiation? What is the duty of a disciple after initiation? The one kind we wanted to ask, like, how did his own spiritual master lived after the initiation, so that it's a lesson for all of us as well as to what should be our life after we receive initiation from the spiritual master. These questions are very relevant for us. And then he asked, and the further asking as to how did you pass your life after initiation, the whole life that you spent, how was you doing? And then other interesting question was, Narada Muni was explaining his previous birth, and in the body that was, or that is at the moment, the Narada Muni has a spiritual body. He can travel anywhere in the whole of the material or spiritual universe. He has access to every part of the creation, both material and spiritual. So the inquiry was to how did he attain this spiritual body after he quit the first body? And then other question was also very important, like, it is understood that time destroys everything. But how did you remember that which happened prior to this day of Brahma? Brahma's day is quite big, it's quite some time, and this is another day of Brahma when Narada Muni has this spiritual body. So how it is possible for someone to remember something that is such a long time ago? And that's the inquisitiveness. Vyasadeva is, his incarnation of spiritual master himself. Sorry, incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So he knows everything, but he still wants to inquire. So this is the nature of disciple, is to hear more and more from the spiritual master. Like, he wants to hear again and more and more. And also, for obviously everything that's in Srimad Bhagavatam is for our knowledge as well. We also learn. So all the devotees asking those questions. Same like Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asking so many questions to Lord Krishna. It's not that he is not aware of, or he's not in the knowledge, but for our benefit, he asks so many questions. So these are the inquiries. So this whole chapter is got 1 to 4 is the Vyasadeva's inquiries about Narada's life. Then 5 to 10 is Narad speaks about his mother's departure. 11 to 19 verses Narada's travels, meditation, and vision of the Lord. So we covered until 19. And then the remaining verses, we have 20 to 25, the Lord instructs and consoles Narad. And 26 to 33 is Narada's full perfection. And then 34 to 38, Narada's conclude. Narada concludes his instructions and departs this way. So we are on the first chapter, and Srila Prabhupada's purport we will read once again. It's very only this 2-sentence small purport, very powerful. So Vyasadeva was further interested to know about the perfection of Naradji, and therefore he wanted to know about him more and more, which we discussed, which is what we should all be doing, knowing more and more about the devotees' lives and the spiritual master's lives. In this chapter, Naradji will describe how he was able to have a brief audience with the Lord while he was absorbed in that transcendental thought of separation from the Lord, and when it was very painful for him. So there's some highlight of the chapter there. So the chapter goes, I'll just speak a little bit about the chapter and then pick up the theme for the discussion today that we will have for about 15-20 minutes. Is how Lord reciprocates with his devotees. So what happened in this story that Narad Muni is now, the Bhaktivedantas then depart from the place, and Narad Muni was only 5-year old. And he was fully protected by his mother. And mother was taking the emotional support from the child, Narad Muni. In that sense, both of them were dependent on each other. And Narad Muni makes a very interesting point where he says this is actually nobody is independent. It's just like the puppet here making the doll dance, the wooden doll dance, same way we are all just the puppets in the hands of the spiritual, in the hands of the Supreme Lord. And then what happens is one day, as Narad's mother was going to milk the cow, she was eaten by a snake and she left her body. And what is most interesting, which comes in the 10th verse, is what Narad Muni, how Srila Narad Muni processes that incident in life. Now, what happened is his mother, he was fully dependent on his mother. He's only 5-year-old. His mother is now eaten by a snake and she's no more. She left her body. So the 5-year-old boy is all alone. He has no one to look at. The only protection he had, the only family he had was his mother. He's living in the forest. Those Bhaktivedantas have left the place. So how do we understand this situation? Like, if this situation happens today, for example, there'll be a few responses to that situation. Yeah. This comes across a lot when some people challenges us and say, oh, if there is God, then how come there's so many people hungry, so many people in trouble, there's so much going on in the world, this problem, that problem. Yeah. And someone would very easily say, oh, look at that. The only support the child had was his mother. And now his mother is gone. So what is this God? What type of God is this? Who allows this to happen? God can do anything. Now, how did the Lord allow his devotee to be left alone at 5-year-old? 5-year-old age is such a tender age. What can a 5-year-old child do all by himself in the forest? Why didn't the Lord protect his mother? So what kind of God is this? God is cruel. Or someone will say, God is very cruel, they become angry at God. And someone would say, well, there is no God. Atheists will say, there is no God, it has happened. Yeah. And someone else might say, it's just a karma, right? What can we do? But how Naraji processes that, or what his response is very beautiful. He says, he takes that whole situation as the special mercy of the Lord. That's in the 10th verse. And that's how devotees of the Lord are so special, that every difficult situation that they face in their life, they process that as the mercy of the Lord. There's so many examples. The whole Bhagavatam is full of these types of stories. And that, starting Parikshit Maharaj, he was a king. He was very pious, and he has seen Krishna when he was in his mother's womb. And he was loved by everyone, by the whole, all of the earth. He was the ruler of the whole earth planet, Bharatavarsha. And he was respected by the Brahmanas. He respected the Brahmins. How come it happened that, he was cursed by a child? And what was the response then? His response was exactly the same. Oh, this is Lord's mercy. Lord wants me to now move on to the next stage of life. And without the mercy of the Lord, nothing can happen. And same way, Narad Muni, processing that without the mercy of the Lord, nothing happens. And this can only be special mercy. So the more difficulties that a devotee faces in his life, the more they see that as Lord's hand. And so the miseries, the Bhagavatam says in the second verse, Tap Trayo Unamulanam, is the three types of miseries are uprooted by reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. So how they are uprooted is, miseries always come in our life, in devotee's life or anyone. This material world means miseries. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukha doshanu darshanam. So this one who sees that the four big problems of life is Janma mrityu jara vyadi, the birth, death, the old age and disease. They are that's the knowledge. 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Narad Muni taking that as special mercy of the Lord, and then he does not wait, he just straight away heads to the north. It is said like that, the heads to the north means, is from the Bharatavarsha perspective, this was very, very popular that in the old days, at least, once people would retire from their active life, they would just walk to the north. They would just go to the Himalayas or wherever all the ashrams there are. They will live austere life going up in the hills and mountains in the north. So Narad Muni just at that age of 5-year-old, he just left the place and just walked up north. They said that he did not even wait to do the last final rites of his mother. He was so convinced. He just walked. And on his journey, what's interesting is he goes through, it's very interesting how Bhagavatam explains that. And that's Narad Muni explaining the whole journey of what happened when he was going to the north. On the way, he came across many fields, farms, mines, beautiful lakes, and sometimes it says dangerous forest and dangerous animals. So what that says is, there's a beautiful verse, and it's this set of 3 words that repeated in Bhagavad Gita many times. Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. Attachment, fear, and anger. So there are 3 responses possible, as we were discussing before. In that situation when Narada Muni was left alone, there were 3 situations. One was the anger, the natural. Some people get very angry. How did Lord do this to me? Even if other people don't say, the individual may respond like that. There are some stories like Karna in Mahabharata, he was always angry. Why did it happen to him? Why did his mother left him alone? And this and that. Always angry. But devotees never, show the anger. So Narad Muni was not angry. He was given bhaya. He was fearless. In spite of being such a small age, he was going into deep, dense forest where dangerous animals live. All the wolves and lions and tigers and elephants and all sorts of animals, snakes, it says that. But he is fearless, and that fearlessness is the gift of the Lord. When a devotee, Srila Prabhupada is the same story. Srila Prabhupada, when he started his journey to America in the cargo ship, he was 69 years old at that age. And on the way in the cargo ship, he had 2 heart attacks. But he was fearless. He was just tolerating those difficulties because his goal was very clear. Actually, it is said that Srila Prabhupada, someone asked Prabhupada, what was the secret? And he recited this verse like the Bhagavad Gita verse that he says, Vayasayatmika buddhi eke hai kurunandana hu shaka hanantasya buddhayo visayinam. Vayasayatmika buddhi eke hai kurunandana. The devotees have a single focus, single goal. Once they have the goal clear, they just follow that. Nothing can stop. So Narad Muni, 5-year-old boy, he had, all the knowledge. He was enlightened by the Bhaktivedantas, special mercy, special, blessings. So Narad Muni's goal was very clear, and he wanted to go in the search of the Supreme Lord. Same way like Dhruva Maharaj, he was 5-year-old, and he was trying to sit on his father's lap, and his stepmother speaks some real sharp words, like sharp arrow, like words going into the heart of little Dhruva, 5-year-old. He was not allowed to sit on his father's lap. And she speaks loud, and his father was not able to do anything. He was speechless. He goes to his mother. Her mother says, there's nothing much I can do. Maybe only the Supreme Lord can do. And Dhruva starts his journey to the forest. Similar story. He's 5-year-old. He goes to the forest. He's fearless. He's fully focused. His goal is one. On the way, he meets his spiritual master again, Narad Muni. And Narad Muni, realizing, yes, maybe sometimes spiritual master tests the disciples. You're a little boy. You don't need to do all these things, dangerous places. And maybe you can do something else by giving so many other things. But nothing would convince Dhruva. He was very firm, resolute. Very resolute on the path. So Dhruva was so resolute, in spite of all the challenges. Because the other thing was like also the point that we were discussing is how does the Lord reciprocate? What is this Lord's reciprocation to his devotees? How Lord makes his devotees totally dependent on him, on the Lord himself. Now Narad has no other option but just to surrender to the Lord. And it is a mutual exchange between the devotee and the Lord. The Lord knows that what is best for the devotee. Yeah. So what is best for the devotee in the scenario. So although we were saying before, like how mundane people would misunderstand the mercy of the Lord. But the devotees, because they fully understand the Lord's mercies at every step, they always look towards the Lord, always follow the plan of the Lord. But the mundane people would always try to resist the plan of the Lord. It's also the situation that it comes in our life when we get into some challenges, some difficult time comes. It all depends. If we are surrendered to the plan of the Lord, we will not resist so much. okay, this situation, I don't want this to happen this way, and I'll do whatever it takes to turn this back and turn this around. And but devotees would not do that. They would not resist. They'll say, okay, this is the Lord's mercy, and we'll just, follow the plan. Let's see what the Lord has, for me. So the Narad Muni, realizing that this is the special mercy of the Lord, he just goes ahead, and then he then meditates on the Lord's, and he gets first he gets to see the one of the verses we saw, that he could not clearly see the form of the Lord. He was so much absorbed that he could not see himself or neither the Lord, but he could see the form. But then he was so resolute after the Lord disappeared for the short darshan that he did not know what to do. He just, then it is said in the chapter later ahead that he tried to again take darshan of the Lord, but the Lord is independent. Lord cannot be bound by anyone. So the Lord did not appear to him again. But then he again, meditated, and he could only receive a brief audience, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned, brief audience with the Lord while he was absorbed in the transcendental thought of separation from the Lord. And when it was very painful for him. So again, this what is apparently a painful is actually a joy for the devotees. This separation and remembrance of the Lord and fully absorbed in the Lord's transcendental form. Devotee, although feels separation and it is painful, but at the same time, it is joy. It is not, the pain that we understand in the material life, that pain is not what is mentioned here. This pain is like the transcendental pain, which is the joy for the devotees. So this reciprocation of the Lord is so unique with his devotees. We see so many examples, like Vidura. Vidura was, he was so rude, this Duryodhan, to Vidura. He was literally asked to leave the palace immediately. And he was so much, nonsense was spoken to him. But Vidurji just tolerated it. So this is the quality of the devotee again, to tolerate the difficulties, taking that as the Lord's plan. When difficulties come, devotees don't try to resist, don't try to fight it out, don't try to revenge the situation, or carry any grudge against the person who's could be the instrument of that pain or that material difficulty for the devotee. Devotees would never carry any grudge. We have the pastime from again Draupadi also. Her 5 sons were killed by Ashwatthama. But when Arjun bound Ashwatthama, Draupadi wanted to forgive, asked Arjun to please immediately release him, and she was really in tears, not to see. She was not willing to see another mother suffering. This is the qualities of the devotees, able to tolerate all difficulties. And furthermore, the Chitrakud, and sorry, I'm forgetting that. So there is another pastime in Bhagavatam where talking about this. Yeah, Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was the same. Prahlad Maharaj was again 5-year-old boy. And he was put into so much difficulty by his own father. But he had so much faith on the Supreme Lord. No matter what happens, it was just the mercy of the Lord. The Lord will always protect me. Prahlad Maharaj was in that mood. Yeah. And Lord did protect him every time. So from the mundane perspective, it all seems like, how can Lord allow this to happen for his devotee? Whereas devotee is just, is relishing that situation, that apparent material difficulty in life. Devotee is relishing that as the mercy of the Lord. This is the special reciprocation, sweet reciprocation between the Lord and his devotees. So we are saying about Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha, Man Maya Ma Upashrita. So Krishna says in the 4th chapter, his devotees, Vita Raga Bhaya, they will give up all types of raga attachment. So Narad Muni on his path, I was saying before, on his path, not only there were dangerous situations, but there were also some pleasant situations. There were pleasant situations like the mines of copper and other gold mines, they're all coming on his way when he was walking to the north. Yeah, so it was very easy for him to be distracted, allured by all this material opulence. There were nice fields and kheta, like the farms, lots of nice vegetables growing there, nice of food, lots of nice communities there, villages coming up on the way. But his focus was one. He could not be distracted. He could not have any raga attachment to the situation. He was very firm. So no attachment and no fear and no anger. So none of those things exist in a devotee. So in that mood, the devotee was just, Narad Muni was carrying on and on until he had the darshan of the Lord. This is the power of the devotee. And this is how he was blessed by the Lord. Although he had only a brief audience, the Lord assured him that in the next life, he will have the full freedom to have, his darshan whenever he likes. So Narad Ji received that spiritual body that allowed him to travel, that allows him to travel anywhere in the universe. So this is the essence of this chapter. And I think this is 5 past. Maybe any questions, any discussions? And maybe we can just go to the bhajan. 5 minutes.
Hare Krishna, Shyam, Hare Guru. Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Hare Guru, can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yeah, I can hear. Yes.
I just have one question.
Yes.
So, as you said that Narada Muni, when his mother died, he didn't even wait for his final rites. He didn't do any funeral or anything. He just carried on walking. So, is that the right thing to do? I thought it's a son's duty to do the final rites for the parents. So,
yes, I think it depends on who we are talking. So it is, everything is how we say, is correct depending on who it is for. For us, yes, absolutely, it makes sense. For Narad Muni, because he was in that transcendental mood, he could not be stopped. He was so, how do you say, like he was so absorbed and so focused on what he wanted to do at that time, that it was explained in one of the books that he could not wait for that. He just left straight away from that place. So it is okay, not okay for us for sure.
Yeah, we shouldn't be following, right?
Yeah, we can't. Yeah. So we can't follow fully the great souls. We can only get inspired by their activities, but we can't never follow them. Like why have so many, Goswamis, they would live on a small palm full of buttermilk they will have.
Yeah.
But we can't follow them. So we can only appreciate the great souls. Lord Shiva drinks the poison and he can hold on his throat. But his disciples, his devotees, they, not the right one, the wrong one. They take intoxicant. Oh, Lord Shiva, take poison, then they take the intoxication. The Prabhupada said many times, well, why don't you drink that kind of poison, like the Lord Shiva drank the poison.
True. Yeah, if they want to follow, then follow fully, right?
Yes. So we follow the footsteps. A little bit off the track, but yes, we can only appreciate the great souls.
Mm. Thank you,
I
Prabhu.
was also my question, thinking, oh, how
Mm.
happened, what, this is the
Yeah, but like, we just learn from them, but we should not follow, what they
yes,
did.
yeah, we get inspired by great souls.
Mm.
Because their detachment is not something that we can apprehend. We can't understand
Mm.
the
Yeah,
level of detachment that
they're special souls. So yeah.
and also like their intensity of devotion, intensity of love for Krishna is so much that we can't relate to it, what it means. Like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they were prime minister,
Yeah.
finance minister, home minister, under the Nawab Hussain.
Yeah.
And they meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and they leave their home straight away and they were living like a mendicant.
True.
Raghunath Das Goswami, he was son of a multi-millionaire at the time.
Mm.
And he had a nice family, wife, but he could not be, bound at home. He had to leave home and he was living so austere. Raghunath Das Goswami he was very austere. He was taking, the leftover food, the rice that was thrown from the Jagannath temple outside for the cows.
Yeah.
He'll select the good ones from there and he will keep himself, eat that. So
very austere, yes.
very austere. The great devotees, for them, material life, material body means nothing. For them, it's just the Lord, is their own holy nature.
Thank you, Prabhu, for that lovely explanation.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for that question. Thank you. That's a nice question, actually. Yeah, we got 2 more minutes. Any realizations or comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes.
So did you say that if someone is undergoing certain problems, it should be regarded as a mercy of God?
Yes, that's how the devotees process any difficulties, because they take that, because the whole idea is, Mataji, is to take the shelter of the Lord. Yeah, if we will have difficulties, no doubt. Everyone will have difficulty in this material world. This world is designed like that. It is, so we will have difficulties. We'll all have difficulties. But there are, 2 or 3 responses that we were discussing before. Response could be either to say that we are angry at Lord, why did this? And I'm doing so much bhakti, I'm doing so much services, I'm doing so much charity. Why this Lord, putting so many difficulties for me? Why isn't my life so easy? That's one way of looking at it. But the Lord has another plan, because if we have, it's all again situational, but let's say if I speak for my own case, if my life is very easy, my material life is very easy, I have no problem at all, and there could be so many problems, health problem, family problem, relation problem, all sorts of problems, financial problems. If there are no problems, this 99%, or say 99 or 99%, no one wants to remember the Lord. It's only the difficulties come when we remember the Lord. It was my own case, actually. It's true like that. When I was, really desperate, no one to look at, then I met the devotees, I felt like, wow, this is so amazing. So it is, if it was not that difficult situation, and in the normal situation, if I share my own personal situation, I'll tell you. I was taken to the temple, to Prabhupada's temple, ever since I was a little boy. My father used to take me pretty much, at least once in a month, if not every Sunday. We would go to the Juhu temple in Mumbai, and would have, nice prasad there. And until I was like 16 or 17, I remember, and we used to get Back to Godhead magazine at home. And I never bothered to read, never even bothered to look at that. Only at the time when I was really in difficulty, then I remembered, what is this? When I saw the book Back to Godhead lying on my desk and say, what is this? Let me have a read. And there was something about like, why am I suffering? When I Google it, why am I suffering? And then I received this, some Bhagavad Gita web page comes, I start reading it, and immediately then the next day my friend takes me to the temple once. And this time my reciprocation was very different to the time before. It seemed like when the difficulties come, we become so much dependent on the Lord, and that's what somehow Krishna likes that way. So we have been fully dependent. We get so much mercy, so much love, and then once we get that mercy, that love, we always hankering for more and more. So the surrender mood is good, and understanding that as a mercy is actually, the miseries will come, but if we convert a misery into mercy, that misery will just goes away. This is the time, just like the weather, Bhagavad Gita says this way. Season, the summer season, the winter season comes and goes. Similarly, the good time and the bad time keep coming in the material life. But if we process that difficult time as the mercy of the Lord and we take shelter of the Lord, we don't feel sad. We just, even if there is problem, we're still happy, still smiling. That's what we experience with devotees. Also, so many devotees sharing the same experience. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. But it means that we still have to take actions towards solving the problem in material life, isn't it?
Practically, yeah, absolutely. It's not that we just sit and do nothing. That's not the purpose. We do whatever we can, but with that, understanding as a big principle is that, a difficulty comes, they will always come in life. But if you're not distracted, we just, keep our focus and surrender and take shelter of the Lord, then the difficulties become very small. Bhagavatam says that, the big ocean-like problems become like the hoof print of a calf. That's how it feels. Because the mind, the difficulty, Mataji, is the mind goes really crazy. Actually, sometimes or often, the difficulty, if we see retrospectively, what we thought was a big difficulty in the past, today when we see that was really not that bad. And most of the time it is like that. And difficulties, they're not as big as the mind makes it. But when the mind is focused on the Lord, when the devotional service, we're engaged in doing some service to the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada's movement, we're so busy that there's no time for the mind to think of those miseries, and time goes, it only gets better. So, I think the mercy of the Lord is always the mercy of the Lord, because the more the difficulty, the more the devotees take shelter. Again, we can't, imitate the great souls, but we get inspired by the great souls, inspired by Srila Prabhupada. Now, how much he was in Vrindavan, in his nice Radha Damodar Mandir, there was no reason for him to travel to the West, and taking so much difficulty. But he still took the difficulty for all of us. So it is the mercy of the Lord by his devotees somehow. The Lord makes the arrangement. When we are sincere in our desire to have that relationship with the Lord makes the arrangement. And, miseries will come and go. Thank you, Mata. Just one more question, then we'll go. I thought it's already 45. How can prolonged problems in family, say 20 years, generation destroyed, still a mercy? How can prolonged problems in family, say 20 years, generations destroyed, still a mercy? The mercy is, as I said, the miseries are there. Variety is someone getting less, someone getting more. So this is a question on the chat. But, if we take that as a mercy, it becomes lighter. The journey becomes so much smoother when we have full faith in the Lord. Things get better, definitely, Mataji. We'll pray that what he said is quite a, serious situation, whoever is posted this message. But we keep praying to the Lord, and Lord gives the power to forget as well. Mata Smriti Jnanam Apohanam Cha. So Sarvasacham Hridi Sanivishto Mata Smriti Jnanam Apohanam Cha. The Lord is sitting in our heart, and from Him comes the memory and the forgetfulness. And difficulties come, but somehow gives us the forgetfulness of that difficulty. Life gets better and absorbed in the Lord's transcendental time, pastimes.
Krishna Prabhu,
Yes,
one
ma'am.
more question.
Yes.
Prabhu, like a long time ago, in the Bangladesh, our devotees, they got very badly hurt. And there was even one devotee who was just going for doing the arti for the Lord, and he got very, very severe, brutally attacked. So these things I still don't get, like an answer or what, that, how come, why such things happens to the devotees, very, so I don't still, what can you share a lot?
Yeah, conscious of time, I'll just say one thing. So what we see is we only see a little bit. We don't see the whole picture. Yeah. Where is that devotee, who went through apparently a difficult situation, is with the Lord, he's got the eternal life of serving the Lord. So what is the, value of a material body? We have lost, millions of bodies, we have lost millions of births, trillions of births, in the day of Brahma, how many lifetimes we are here still. We have read how many days goes, how many years have passed. We're still here. So how many bodies we have lost in one or the other way. But what we don't know is where is the devotee. And same way, like the Nara's mother was, bitten by the snake. Oh, we will say we'll feel pity. Oh, that poor lady was bitten by a snake and she left her body. Because we are so much body conscious, we don't appreciate what happens after that. It is between the Lord and the devotee. And Lord is, Name Bhakta Pranashyati. That's Lord's promise. And there are unlimited, pastimes within Bhagavatam. The Lord always protects his devotees. So I'm just conscious of time. Sorry, 12 minutes and start bhajan now.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, Shyam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
This is again very relevant verse. Thank you so much for choosing this song. Sorry. Shyam Prabhu, please.
Prabhuji, I believe someone is going to read the English translation and
Yeah,
then I speak.
yeah, yes, sure.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna, my humble obeisances to all the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. For the Bhajan Bhulya Tomare translation. O Lord, forgetting you and coming to this material world, I have experienced a host of sins and sorrows. Now I approach your lotus feet and submit my tale of woe. While I was bound up tightly in the unbearable confines of my mother's womb, O Lord, you once revealed yourself before me. After appearing briefly, you abandoned this poor servant of yours. At that moment, I thought, after my birth this time, I will surely worship you with undivided attention. But alas, after taking birth, I fell into the entangling network of worldly illusions. Thus, I possessed not even a drop of true knowledge. As a dear son fondled in the laps of attentive relatives, I passed my time smiling and laughing. The affection of my father and mother helped me forget you still more, and I began to think that the material world was a very nice place. Day by day, I gradually grew into a young boy and began playing with other boys. Soon, my powers of understanding emerged, so I diligently studied my school lessons every day. Proud of my accomplished education, I later traveled from place to place and earned much wealth, thereby maintaining my family with undivided attention. I forgot you, O Lord Hari. Now, in old age, this Bhakti Vinoda very sadly weeps as death approaches. I fail to worship you, O Lord, and instead passed my days in vain. What will my fate be now? Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So I'll be singing this song, this bhajan. Bariya Tumhar. बोलिया तुम्हारे संसाराशिया पिए ननविदा व्याता बोलिया तुम्हारे संसाराशिया पिए ननविदा व्याता तुम्हारा चरणी आसियाची आमी बोलिब दुखेरा काता तुम्हारा चरणी আসিয়াছি আমি বলিব দুঃখেরা কাতা বলিয়া তোমারে সংসার আসিয়া পেয়ে নানাবিধা ব্যাতা জননী জতারে ছিলাম যকোনা বিষম বন্দন পাশে জননী জতারে ছিলামি যকোনা বিষম বন্দন পাশে একবার প্রভু দেখা দিয়া মোরে একবার প্রভু দেখা দিয়া মোরে వంచెలై দিন দাসী వంచెలై দিন দাসী বলে তোমারে সংসার আসিয়া পেয়ে নানাবিধা ব্যাতা তখন ভাবিন জনম পায়ে করিব ভজন তাবা তখন ভাবিন জনম পায় করিব ভজন তাবা জনম হইল পদিময় জালে জনম হইল পদিময় জালে না হইল জন লাভা না হইল জন লাভা বলিয়া তোমারে সংসার আসিয়া পেয়ে নানাবিধা ব্যাতা তখন ভাবি জনম পায়ে করিব ভজন তাবা জনম হইল পদিময়ে জালে না হইল জ্ঞান লবা বলিয়া তোমারে সংসার আসিয়া প্রিয় ননবিধা ব্যাতা আদেরেরা ছেলে স্বজনেরা কোলে হাসিয়া কাটন কালা আদির রেখে ছেলে স্বজনেরা কোলে হাসিয়া কাটনু কালে জনক জনানি স্নেহতি ভুলিয়া জনক জনানি স্নেহতিয়া ভুলিয়া সংসার লাগিল ভালো সংসার লাগিল ভালো বলিয়া তোমারে সংসার আসিয়া পেয়ে নানাবিধা ব্যাতা ক্রমে দিনা দিনা বালক হই বেলেনো বালক সাহ ক্রমে দিনা দিনা বালক হইয়া বেলুনা বালক সাহ আর কিছু দিনে জ্ঞান উপজিল আর কিছু দিনে জ্ঞান উপজিল পাতা পড়িয়া হর আহা পাতা পড়িয়া হর আহা বলিয়া তোমারে সংসার আসিয়া পেয়ে নানাবিধা ব্যাতা Vidyare gaurave brahmideshi deshi dana uparjana kori. Vidyara gaurave brahmideshi deshi dana uparjana kori. Swajana palana kori kamane, swajana palana kori kamane. भूलिनो तुम्हारे हरि, भूलिनो तुम्हारे हरि, बोले या तुम्हारे संसार आशिया, पूजना न हरि प्याता, बोले या तुम्हारे संसार आशिया, पेना नरद प्याता, बर्दके एकोना Bakati Vinoda Kandiya Katarati Bardake Ekona Bakati Vinoda Kandiya Katarati Nabajiya Tore Dinabrita Gelo Nabajiya Tore Dinabrita Gelo एको ना किहा विगति एको ही किहा विगति बोले या तुम्हारे संसार आशिया पिये न विदा व्याता बोले या तुम्हारे संसार आशिया पिये न विदा व्याता. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hari Bol. Shyam Prabhu ki jai.
Humble obeisance. Thank you.
Very nicely singing. Thank you so much. And such a beautiful song.
Yes, Prabhuji. Very, very beautiful.
Very nice.
The meaning of the song is so beautiful.
Sure. Can we have a show of hand? How many of us can relate to this song? Raise our hand. How many of us can relate to this song? I can relate to this. I don't know how to raise my hand now. That's amazing. Yeah. The story of our life. Thank you so much, Mataji.
First time on television. Judge by Jordan.
Very nice, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Beautifully sung. And the song was, the meaning of the bhajan is very nice.
Thank you, Mataji. So kindness you gave me this to sing. I'm not worthy of singing this, but I just did my bit.
And you have to tell everyone that your mother thought that song was just right for you. She enjoyed your singing, didn't she?
Yes, as soon as you sing, I sent it to my mother, and she really liked the way the song is beautiful. I was not sure I could, so I just tried. Hopefully, I'm okay. So, okay.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. See all your kindness. Thank you.
Prabhu was also singing the Aarti in the afternoon.
Yes, Prabhuji.
He was singing for the Lord. Thank you so much.
Wow.
And the Bhakti is obviously singing this bhajan for us. Our situation is like this.
Yes.
It's amazing how the devotees feel. They're so humble. Yeah, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was always absorbed in the Manjari. He's always absorbed in the thoughts of the Lord in devotion. But he's feeling like this. Our story of life. Thank you so much. It's 9 o'clock. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for being here today.
Kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Wonderful class.
Thank you
Hare
so much.
Krishna.
Thank you, wonderful
Prabhuji.
class, wonderful singing.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.